Hello, everybody. Welcome to Permission Granted. I'm your host, Juliette Ricci Lagman. Thanks for joining us today. We have a very exciting episode. We have an old friend of mine, Avalon Kalin, joining us today. He is an artist, a graphic designer. He has dabbled in film. I would say design overall. He's got a designer's mind. And our families go way, way back. And one thing we're going to talk about today is human design. What is it and how it can benefit you in your life and your calling. And then also, of course, the connection with art and self-realization. Avalon, welcome.
Juliette, thank you for having me. This is great to be here.
Thank you for being my first guest.
I love it. I didn't know. I'm so happy. I'm honored.
Oh my goodness. We've known each other over 30 years.
At least. Yeah, that sounds about right. High school, I guess, is where I started meeting the Ricci family. The Riccis.
Avalon and my brother Joel are old friends, and our families go way back. And quite a creative family we both have.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your history. I understand you you received your MFA at Portland State.
Yes, I got an MFA in social practice, which is was and still is an emerging subgenre of contemporary art. Yeah.
Yeah. And you did a project, the graffiti removal film you worked on?
Yeah, so that was my gateway into the quote-unquote art world.
Woo!
And that's a really fascinating story, and it's very interesting that happens. And I'm really honored to talk with you. We were talking about this before, where being yourself, being a whole person, being alive in this world is really a creative act, and that creativity in art and finding yourself in your work. And I love that about your writing, so I'm really honored to have this conversation. It's really alive for me. And when you mentioned the graffiti removal movie, and anyone can go see it now, just Google The Subconscious Art of Graffiti Removal. It was finally just put up on YouTube a couple years ago. And it's a kind of a cult movie. It's a short film, and it's been regarded around the world since it came out as, I guess you would call it a mockumentary. So you have to watch it for yourself. But the premise of the film is, have you seen it before?
I've seen bits of it, yes.
Yeah, so the premise is that graffiti removal, which is these blocks of paint that people put over graffiti around the cities, most American and cities around the world, is a form of subconscious art.
Yeah.
And it's basically Rothko's all over the place and abstract art. And so Miranda July, who's now a famous director and writer, she narrated it, which was really lucky on our part. And it was co-written by Matt McCormick and myself. And Matt is a genius, and he produced and filmed and did all the work with some help. And I was basically just there at the beginning. But it catapulted me into the world of communicating my ideas really quickly. So I was probably like in my early 20s. And there it was in the Sundance Film Festival. In the credits, it said, based on the ideas of Avalon Kalin. I was like, what?
Amazing.
Yeah, so this was a game changer for me. It showed me that my ideas had power.
Yeah, it's very true. I remember I want to say, actually, going out, I lived in Portland for a short time, and maybe around the time you did the film or right after, going around and hunting for these abstract pieces. And there was one section of Portland in particular that held a lot of those. And I would just go out and take pictures because I just thought, and your mom, Susan Russell, would tell me about it. And I just thought it was brilliant. So, yeah.
I'm glad you got to see that. And that is the best result of the film. People come out of it and say that they look at the city differently.
Yeah.
And that is just totally amazing. And it's the genius of Matt, and it's the voice of Miranda. and everybody involved that made it this charming movie that it was kind of a Trojan horse, because it was carrying the secret message that you don't need an arbiter of beauty or value, that each of us is the authority in what is beautiful to us, and what has value.
Yep. I've had folks say to me before, with my artwork, because I write in my paintings, that I should be responsible for what the viewer pulls from it. And I said, oh no, they take what they want. I have nothing to do with it, and that's not irresponsible art making. That's responsible art making, because the freedom in it, right? Like, the idea that I'm not dictating to you what you're going to perceive out of this. You take from it what you need and leave the rest, And if you take nothing, that's okay too. It's just there for whoever needs it.
That is a healthy relationship, I think. Through art. Yeah, that's the relationship I think that I want to have with everyone. And I think freedom, there's a liberation that happens between art. Art is like, somebody said it was like a URL to the morphic field. It was a really fascinating way to look at it. An art piece can take you to parts of your life or parts of the universe, and it's there, it's available for that. And to put control into there kind of takes away from that person's ability to enjoy it. And I think everybody has to walk that balance. It's at the end of the day, I think beauty in art is a mystery.
Yeah.
That balance can be achieved, of trying to create something in that framework, but that framework allows freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you can't dictate, how people see the world per se. You can try to influence them, but you can't dictate what experience they've had in their life. So you don't know, you literally don't even know how their eyesight is. So, it's not up to us, the artists, to dictate. You can have a goal for what you'd like people to take away from it, but you really can't determine, what their past experiences were. It's none of your business, really.
One of the things I appreciate about your art, and I've seen your art over the years, my sister bought one of your pieces and it was on her wall for many years, is this layering and this vast realm of experience, memory, emotion that is in the work. And you get it from the words and the texture and the whole feeling of it. So you're able to communicate like a lot without, I don't know how to put it. It's a little, it's like unlocking a secret, maybe. So you can't really control that. But what I am interested in your work is that sometimes the words go off the page, right? Oftentimes they go off the page, or off the frame.
And it's more, I used to say it was my chicken way of writing, and it's, all about the aesthetic of handwriting, which it is. And I would say to people, you don't have to read it, but I actually, as I get more seasoned, I'm like, well, I'd kind of like you to read it, because now I value my words more than I used to,
And anyway, just getting back, so that what happened there, and I wanted to put a flag in that graffiti removal question, the film. And I think if you go and see it, whoever's listening, I think you'll really enjoy it and get a picture of what we're talking about. For me now, looking back, I'm now in my mid 40s. We're both Generation X.
Yep.
The forgotten generation. And the fact is that those ideas, and I think your art and all creativity comes from being where I was at the time. And so the film is a product of walking around with an open mind and a deep desire to have experiences here. And the city of Portland at that time was very conducive to walking and bike riding. It was much more quiet. in the early 90s, it was really a sleepy town. Not a lot going on, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And that allowed me, because I was relatively safe and I was a young man and tall, for the most part, I could just walk around for hours and hours.
Yeah.
And that level of walking and experience is what created that connection for me.
Yeah. Yeah. How has your, and we can just touch on this quickly, how has your career as a graphic designer been fed by those early days in Portland and, you know, your education or experience back then?
Yeah, so just I would just tell my story real quick. And career wise, is that I was a student, and I first thought I would go into accounting because I wanted to just make money, and then I realized I didn't want to be a CPA. Like, you know, I got a 2-year degree, and I was like, I don't want to just wash dishes with my mind for money, which is what I was doing.
I'm going to quote you, wash dishes with my mind. I like it.
It really felt like that. And so I got the opportunity because my family said, we want you to have a 4-year degree. My grandmother paid for me to go back to college. And I thought, well, halfway between creativity and business is art or design. So I got a degree in design with a Bachelor of Science in graphic design from Portland State. And I started doing some corporate work for a mid-level company. And my boss was really sweet. And he was great at showing me the ropes. And I was just so busy working. I think I was only there for like a year or two, and I just felt really demoralized by the culture. And honestly, so I've always loved graphics and loved art. I was privileged to grow up in my family. My mother and father are both graphic oriented people, and I'm the son of, Susan Russell, who was a lightning rod of art and creativity. So I was surrounded by books of calligraphy and prints and art, ancient and new. And I just
will mention here, she influenced a vast array of young people and her peers, in Snohomish County and beyond. She was a force. She was a lightning force. Yeah, incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was given this gift of a huge access to creative resources. And so that I think is why I ended up going into graphic design. And this goes to the human design thing. It turns out that I'm really not a graphics or art productive type. I'm not really supposed to be involved in production per se. I can guide production, but my energy is really teacher guide vibes. And so I got my graphic design degree and I got this job, and I was just like, I am so tired. I'm doing other people's work, and at the end of the day, I'm not making much money. And it's like, what is this all for? And obviously Portland is a saturated place. So at that time, I don't know, I just felt like there's so many people doing what I want to do. And that's when I had a breakthrough. I had a breakthrough that I wasn't being creative, and I was walking to the supermarket to get groceries. And I just said, you have to be creative on this walk. This is your only chance. And I just had this flip the script moment where I just said, I'm going to make a sculpture every time I walk to the supermarket on the street.
Was this in like iPhone days, so you could take a picture?
It was the earliest, cell phone. I think I took the first pictures with a digital camera. It was right at that transition, I feel like.
For you young people out there was a time when we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have photos. We didn't have cameras, in our back pocket.
No, I think I had like this little. I know I had a digital Canon kind of digital camera. Yep. And I would take it in and print the pictures. Right? Yep. Yeah, and so that was just a breakthrough, and it created this new environment for me of possibility where it didn't really matter where this work fit, because it was for me, it was my creativity, it was meaningful to me, and it was about how I was thinking and feeling on my walks. So that was the beginning. And then I was still working, and I got invited to the MFA program in social practice by a friend of mine, Laurel Kurtz. She wouldn't let me just kind of flake off. She said, Avalon, this is a really important program. If you want to do it, you need to apply this month. And I said, oh, I think so. She said, no, I think if you really want to do it, you should just do it. And I said, I think you're right. And so I spent more money going to grad school, but it was pretty affordable because it's a state university as far as grad programs go. Yeah. And like the name of your podcast, it gave me permission for the first time in my life to just entirely devote my time and energy towards creativity. And I created over 100 projects in 2 years.
Wow. Can you define social practice for me and then maybe touch on a couple of the projects you did?
Yeah. So social practice art is art that is focused in the world for the most part, out of the studio. It leaves behind object making, rarefied objects. And it often engages culture in a wider realm beyond the museum and gallery walls. Often it will bring culture into the museum and gallery walls. And it's been related to relational aesthetics was a name that was created in France. But it's just kind of like action art and conceptual art coming into the world of culture more, and for better or worse. I mean, obviously there's a lot of damage you can do there, but for me, it's just a natural progression of contemporary art to be more and more connected to life. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm hoping it remains. I think many social practice artists have kind of, like all kind of trends, they kind of go away, and it'll be interesting to see if it even continues in that way that it was able to maybe 10 years ago to 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Is there an element of like interactive / environmental earth art in all of that?
I think those things influence social practice. There's a small movement called institutional critique that if you study art history, you might have heard of it, and it's artists in the 70s and 80s who used their opportunities when they were given exhibition opportunities or grants or museum interactions to point out the limitations of the funding structure, point out the limitations of the culture. You know, what I don't like about art is it's elitist. I don't like that there's insiders and outsiders. I don't want to go to a party where there's some cool kids and some not cool kids. Like, no, thanks. We all belong. Yeah. So
all belong.
It was institutional critique was kind of a short movement that kind of made that more apparent. There was a arts collective called Group Material, who did some work that way. They brought a lot of culture into the museums as well. They created the AIDS timeline that was really powerful. But anyway, yeah. So social practices, at times there's an interactive quality to it. Yeah, often that is the case. My professor Harold Fletcher was, I think, a really important artist and he did a project, for example, in San Francisco at the museum there, where if you came into the museum, you could be invited to participate and show, if you had any family photos in your wallet or purse, they would photograph them and blow them up and exhibit them.
Oh my word, that's amazing.
Yeah, so the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art had, I think it was, had this show of like a large gallery of beautiful pictures from the public that have been photographed and enlarged. Yeah.
And now it would be iPhone, I'd imagine, like snapshot on your phone or something like that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Or your wallpaper. For folks who don't know, can you tell us a little more about human design?
Right, yeah. So human design is a form of astrology, and I got into it. I've just gotten more and more into astrology, and during that time, I actually did a social practice project based on astrology. I have to say, we can bridge the two worlds right now by one of the projects I did at the Portland Art Museum, where they had several students do work there. That friend I was talking about, Laurel Kurtz, her and I created an astrological tour of the museum. We hired an astrologer to describe the different archetypes, and we picked a Libra painting, an Aries painting, a Pisces painting, whatever they were, or sculpture, and we did a tour of the museum based on astrology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I've been interested in astrology because of the powerful presence of the archetypes. I used to do a party trick where I could tell the Aquarius at the party. I could just see an Aquarius, and I would say, "You're an Aquarius," and they'd say, "What? How did you know?" And I don't think I can still do that, but this happened quite a few times, and so I knew something was going on with this astrology stuff, and I got more into it, and I had heard about human design years ago, and the books were too expensive for me at the time. There wasn't a lot on human design. Human design is a new form of astrology that was discovered, it was channeled in the late 80s. A few years later, it was brought to the United States and other places, and it's just grown and grown since then. It applies the I Ching. So there's 64 archetypes in the I Ching, and the I Ching is a beautiful oracle, one of the gems of the world, and it's been used for a long time to divine and find answers to things. And so the interesting thing about human design is it puts the I Ching over the astrological mandala. So the planets appear in a circle and different, but interestingly enough, it's not chronological. So they don't go 1 through 64 around. They don't do that. They create a really star pattern that is really complicated. And it was this, I don't know how it happened, but I think that's how it was channeled. It was channeled first, I think, in this thing called the body graph. And then I don't know how it was put together, but it's been fascinating to see. And I did your reading. So in earnest, I've been studying human design for about a year.
Okay. Tell me about, I'm a generator and you're projector. Can you tell me about the different, wait, are you a projector? Tell me
yes,
about.
Yes.
Yep. And what they mean, basically.
Okay, so there are 5 energy types. They are generator, manifesting generator, manifestor, projector, and reflector. Okay. And most of the planet is a generator, are generators. This is like mostly a generator planet. So I think like 70%, like 60, 70% of people, I don't know, last time I read, it's been estimated by human design astrologers that most of us here are generators. And
right, for the era we're in.
yeah, it's like, well, the planet, so generators have a enveloping warm aura that and they literally create the energy. So generators are making everything move, and the sense of impulse to do is so natural. So the other cool thing about human design, and the energy types come from this, it's based in the chakras. Yes. So this sounds really outlandish, but it's really fascinating. So instead of 7 energy centers like the traditional Eastern 7 chakras, there's actually 9 in human design, because humans have evolved to have more energy centers, which is really beautiful. And so they're kind of traditional, and there's some additions. And I think people who study Eastern science might be aware of this stuff anyway, just to get more specific as to the way the energy body works. And so generators have a defined sacral center, their lower belly, which means they have consistent access to energy. And that is really a great gift. And I talked to you about this, but the trick is that you want to be doing things that are life supporting. So you know, like all of us need to use our energy in life supporting ways. And that's really the hang up for sacral defined people, generators, is like, well, is your work really joyful? Because then if it's not, you will become dissatisfied. Right?
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, what is something, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm just going to ask it, what is like the most joyful thing you've experienced, sort of work-wise or study-wise, I guess, in your lifetime?
Thank you. Well, this goes back to the human design. I think the reason why I'm really attracted to human design is it accurately describes our real gifts.
Yeah.
And we're all here because we have kind of a spiritual contract with this life to be who we are and to impact and respond to the world. And many of us, I think, kind of sit a little bit and don't go forth or go in or whatever the direction is. And the world doesn't get to have the experience of us. And so I think many of us suffer and even get disease when we, for whatever reason, can't move that energy and can't be in our full selves. And also we just need to decondition, because most of us for at least 10 years, right, our schooling really conditioned us to be people that we're not.
Yeah.
So when we say joy, it's like how deep was the joy and how much were you your full self? And that's the kind of joy that I think we all deserve in this life, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm realizing the power of my gifts is I learned this from human design, and this is why I really recommend human design. I discovered and I've been given permission in human design to be myself, and I've discovered myself. Yeah.
Love it. Tell me, okay, so on that note, this is perfect. Tell me about, okay, so when you did my human design, now I'm going to get some of this verbiage wrong, but I'm going to try. So impeccability of speech was one of my attributes or characteristics. And then the other one was, oh no, I'm blanking. It was calm, bringing calm to chaos, if you will, or organization. And the other was authorship. So, so all of that, and for where the journey I've been on the last probably 3 months, all of this is making sense to me. So in light of that, can you tell me more about the gates and how all of that works together?
Thank you. Yeah. So that is for me the reason that I'm so excited to do readings for people, is to share with them their prominent gifts. Those come from the gates. So when you're born, the planets and the nodes, the moon's nodes, are somewhere on the mandala, and those degrees are archetypes. Each of those degrees also has a line associated with it, 1 through 6. So the astrologer, the human design astrologer, or gene keys, which is another form of human design, we can look and we can say, this is an archetype at work in your life. Here's the shadows associated with it. This is the thing that's going to keep you from experiencing the gift, or it's the unconscious expression of the gift. And then your line number is going to tell you how particularly you're doing it. So whether you're really using this gift for research as a creator, whether you're using it as a genius who has to now dance with the world with your genius, or you're using it as someone who's changing the world through experiences, like, or whether you're a socialite with this gift, you're using this gift in networking with your heart out there on your sleeve, helping people, letting them help you. You can use this gift as a queen or a king who's telling the world what's going on, and uses this gift in power, in business. And then there's another one, which is the authority, which is someone who embodies this gift for others. Yeah, and is an authority in this archetype. So that's a lot to work with. And the amazing thing about human design, and this is what I showed you, is that you can tell a lot through the sun and the earth angle.
Yeah.
And they call that the incarnation cross. Here's another thing about human design, is there's 2 charts made, one for your birth time and one for 88 days before your birth time.
Okay, this is so interesting. I want to hear more about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means that the idea is that your soul contract, the imprinting, happened in your body 88 days before you were born.
Okay.
And that this is going to sound really far out. I'm so sorry if this sounds too crazy, But it
Not at
really
all.
is amazing. Yeah, it basically makes a cross on the mandala, and some of them are right angled, some of them are left angled, and some of them are really straight and fixed. And the incarnation cross is, human design astrologers say, it's about 70% of your entire life is described in this, because that's the power of the sun. We're solar beings, and this is a planet that life is this relationship with the solar energy. And from astrology, we tend to forget the power of the sun, and we don't focus on the archetype, because a lot of astrologers don't have much more to say other than, oh, that's your sun angle. Well, in human design, there's a lot to say about the sun-earth relationship at your birth. And I love the incarnation cross, and that's the basis of gene keys is really what they call the activation path, which is the incarnation cross studied meditatively. And so the whole thing is described basically as your sun sign and line is your life's work. Mm-hmm. The opposite of that across the chart is how you evolve, your sphere of evolution. And then 88 days before you were born, that one is called your radiance. It's coming out of your body. It's coming out of your unconscious. You can't help but show to others and radiate this archetype.
So what happens when you deny that, when you shrink it, when you are felt to that it's a bad, like, oh no, that's bad that you radiate X and you shouldn't do that anymore? What happens to us?
Yeah, so that in human design, that's called the not self. Mm. And some people say that's what human design, the first phase of human design is to speak to people through understanding the not self, to get us to decondition ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so we tend to act out our shadows when we are not coming from that place of life supporting self-love, or we've blocked our energy. So that is why this is serious business, right?
Yeah, it is.
We need to take responsibility for our healing and our growth.
So I'll share with you just a couple of quick things. So, I always tried to fit in, and frankly, no other way to say it, but shrink myself, or discount myself. And it was literally making me sick, like no joke. And so I just went on this trip to Sedona, and we were doing some sound bath, really amazing sound bath and breathwork sessions. For all of you that don't know about sound bath and breathwork, definitely look into it, or I can provide some resources. But I feel like at the sacral level in my lower belly, and I've always had sort of gut issues, if you will, but as I'm going through these healings, I felt the energy move and heal in the sacral. I mean, it was pivotal to my being able to express energy. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that depending on your type, some types of folks don't fit in the push culture, and they have to rest, and we all do, but they have to do things on their own timeline. And it's not procrastinating. It is the most productive thing that they can do, because if they're in the zone, they're more productive. So I don't know if you've experienced
Huge. Yeah, so projectors, manifestors, and reflectors all do not have sacral center definition. So they all need to respect rest. And some have access to the other motor centers. Manifestors have a motor center defined, and those can be great motivators, but they're not the same as that sacral consistent definition. But yeah, that's so beautiful that happened. We were talking about this before. All of this connects to energy work. And if you don't think energy work is real, just remember how it feels when you know that you're loved.
Yeah.
That's energy. And when you've got fresh air and when you've moved your body, remember how that feels, right? And how your skin feels fresh when you're out in the moist air. And I could go down the list. When you've eaten whole foods instead of processed foods,
Yeah.
how you feel different. And it is so much is energy. Yeah, I love that. And so there are great insights into how to use your energy. Human design has been described as a system for making decisions, because the big thing that you want to get is your strategy and your authority. One thing I want to say is emotional definition in people is really important to respect too. I think a lot of people don't realize and respect their emotional wave. And it does feel powerful to act out of emotion in the moment. We think that we're honoring the emotion by acting it out fully, but that's not really the truth. Like, I think emotions need to be felt fully.
Yeah.
So we don't want to react from them. So I think a lot of people need to wake up to the energy of just a wave of feeling, whatever it is, and how it's impacting us.
Yeah.
And I can talk about this simply more as a guide. I don't have emotional definition in my chart, but I love people. People have a powerful effect on me. And so that's a projector. Energy type is we actually dance together in the meridian. So projectors have a relationship energetically with all people. That's what they say about projection, is that your aura is participating with other auras.
Yes.
So it's kind of a form of sensitivity, but it's also a form of wisdom. And that's the permission I was granted. And I didn't tell this part of my story, is that when I got my graduate degree, the head of the art department said, what are you doing this summer? I said, well, I don't know. I thought she meant vacation. And she said, no, do you want to teach? And I said, oh yeah, I guess so. She said, well, do you want a job? I said, yeah. So she just signed me up. I started teaching part-time these college level classes that I'd learned to teach already.
Yeah.
And so that, as a projector, that's what's called an invitation, and projectors are told to wait for the invitation.
Yes. Okay. So my good friend Catherine, we're gonna have her on the podcast. Catherine she's an energy healer. She is a projector, and she told me that exact thing because she had her human design done. That you wait for the invitation. So this makes so much sense, and I don't know if this matters, but I am always scared of teaching, but I love speaking. I absolutely love it, which is really weird. So it's that element of, I don't know, working closely. Not that I don't like working closely with people, but it's different when you're it's different when you're on a stage versus when you're responsible for teaching young minds. Anyway.
Well, I think you're a line one in your unconscious, and line ones have a shadow of inadequacy. Not having done enough preparation or research is a line one problem. But the irony of a line one is that's what they're doing all the time. They're constantly researching. So as a line five, so I'm outing your astrology. Sorry. It's okay.
It's okay.
As a line five, you are given the ability to speak, and it's funny that I have the opposite problem. So I'm here to guide, and I really care about each of the people in the audience. And for me, the other stuff comes because of that.
Yes.
And getting to do lesson planning and helping the different students and seeing the different ways I could help them. That came with me really just wanting to honor that, guiding them through. And I'm kind of a campaigner. I was given the insight in human design is that I'm an establisher of knowledge and truth as a line 1-3, and as a projector, I'm a seer type. And that makes perfect sense. That's what happened to me with this subconscious art of graffiti removal film. That's the fact that I can't be a productive, quote unquote, productive type, I should say in production, is because that's not where my energy flows.
Right, exactly.
So if you're a generator or manifesting generator, I think your issue really is, first of all, if you're a manifesting generator, are you a generator or manifesting generator? I think just generator.
Yep.
Yeah. So you don't have this problem. So I think let's start with generators and say, just do the world's going to come to you because of your gifts, because you're radiating these gifts and you have the energy to produce them. So for me, I'm like looking over the fence, like, you've got it made. So,
grass is always greener.
yeah. So the trick is to do that thing that lights you up.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And that's especially true of generators, because if you're not, you're sitting there going, why am I putting this energy here?
Yeah.
But the good news is if you do those things, you're able to produce, and people gain from that. The world gains from that. So you don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah. Real quick, tell me about shadow. Can you define that, shadows in this human design?
Yeah, so shadows especially come into play in gene keys, but basically every gift has its shadow, its unconscious expression, or its non-integrated use. So it's really fascinating. Like, for example, the gate of 48 in human design is the gate of the well, resourcefulness. Mm-hmm. The Qing, it's even called Qing, I think. It's the well. So if you have this gate, you have the gift of knowing that there's resource and finding it instinctively. If you're in the shadow, you actually experience this sense of scarcity, and there's not enough, there's inadequate resources.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about that, because that is a huge. We in this linear world we live in scarcity. I mean, where our world is built on it, quote unquote. So, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, can't we? I think I would ask this question, Juliette. What do you think? Because I asked this question: what is standing in the way from us experiencing the abundance of life?
That is a really good question. Well, I will speak for myself. It's fear and lack of self-worth. That's kind of where I would start. But there's
it.
Yeah.
I think you went way beyond what I could have said. I'm so glad, because
ding ding ding.
Yeah, that is if you understand fear, and the next one was this lack of self-love. Is that how you described it?
Self-worth, yeah.
Self-worth, yeah. So fear, and these are the two gifts that I have. This gift, I was given this gift. It's in my unconscious chart. So if you know me, if you're around me long enough, you will come to bring before, it'll come up something that's not in the present. And I have the defined gift of the now. So this is the place of creation. The past and the future emanate from this as concepts. And we are part of, life is sacred. This moment is sacred. It is where everything happens. And we've been given this conditioning to live outside of the present moment. And fear takes us away. And it's trying to do its job, and it does a job of alerting us. But we need to balance that and take that signal and still be a whole people, right?
Right.
Our wholeness is our escape from fear dominating us, right?
Yeah, and I mean the future and past, they're just not real. I mean, it's just not real, right now is the real. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you listen to people who are afraid, they often are distracted from the access that they have from resources right now that are available now. And that is that's the telltale sign of what we call insanity, and it's the insanity of all of us. It's called the illusion of separation. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, and that actually gets to the next one, which is the lack of self-worth is the product of that trauma of the illusion of separation. And this is going to sound so woo-woo to people, but we are in a time-space continuum, but we are not of time-space. And in meditation and through experiences like love, we have experiences outside of time and space, actually, especially time. Mm-hmm. And these this is the sacred realm that's beyond the limits of our senses, and it's divine. And that level of status is the status of every human being, and actually all life, and in a deeper spiritual level of all things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And only when we're elevated to that status, or when we're given that level of dignity, can we release ourselves from the limitations of these illusory visions that we've been given of what we are and what we're doing here. Have you heard I love this word, creatorship.
No.
There is a movement of, like the Four Agreements. It's this idea that you are, I think the Four Agreements are there, I can't remember if it's explicitly said, but basically we are creating the world. Every action that we have is creating the world around us. Right. And we actually have choice in the kind of world that we're living in. And we're living in a time where people are breaking through this idea that I'm just a victim of circumstances, and they're actually able to tap that status that I was talking about, that divine status of something that's kind of beyond circumstances, that we can tap to be true subjects of this world and truly be in creatorship. And I love this phrase, like a friend of mine posted, my perception is the foundation of my creatorship. And she might have said perspective. So we are in charge of what we put into our senses, and at the same time then we can fully resonate. So the whole idea is being yourself. Yep. And that's the whole thing. The whole idea is that all those things that you're longing for, those turn into realization, because the more that you are yourself, the more you act out of wisdom. And they already exist in another, plane, if you will, right? I mean, in another space-time. This I know that we have like a limited time, but I wanted to mention that one of how I've been able to bridge creativity and this deeper awareness that astrology has given me of the soul's journey, or how we become whole, and then act in the world from our wholeness, is the 7 principles of the Hermetic principles. And I'm really fascinated because I studied art, and I studied Johann Itten and the Bauhaus and his Design and Form book, which I love, and I taught basic design. And these are really profound concepts, like unite disparate elements is one of the modernist principles of design. And so long ago, the Egyptians and then the Greeks and others had these principles, and I'm sure I imagine they were just known in India too, because that's such a rich place. But they are the idea that there's source. They call it mentalism. So there's flow. They call that vibration. There is connection. They call that correspondence, as above, so below. There's rhythm. There's, what's the other ones? Polarity. There's, how could I forget these? They call one gender, but really it means genderment, creation. That there's something that happens that's more than the sum of its parts. And, karma, the law of cause and effect. So those are the 7 Hermetic laws, and I'm really fascinated, and I want to bring these to artists. So I want to launch in the next year the Imaginist Bauhaus course, where we do collective dreaming, and then we build that foundation of creativity, and it was through group art experiences, which are more like just engaging these 7 principles. Yeah. And I just have all this. Thank you. I just wanted to mention that because I think we were just talking about one of them, but like how can we be creative when we don't honor the source of our creativity? Right. And that's why I point to astrology, is like how to honor your gifts if you don't know your gifts. How can you be a whole person if you don't know who this person is?
Yeah, and it really just takes stopping and listening. And one of the most fruitful things that I've ever done, and I can't stress this enough, is I did a breathwork session with this gentleman named Adam Cardbury. I'll put his information in the show notes so everybody can. And it was not, it wasn't super cheap, but it was the best money I ever spent because it really got to the heart of what was inside at the base of me, of what I
Mm.
really wanted to do in life, if you will, or where I should be. And since I did that maybe 2 years ago, everything that came out of that session has shown to be true. And really, it was being by the water as a writer doing yoga, but mostly the writer part. And
Mm.
I keep coming back to that over and over and over. So yeah.
Yeah, I loved looking at your chart and reading to you. Um, the purpose is the last sphere in the Gene Keys activation sequence. It's the last archetype in the incarnation cross, and it just says the purpose of this. What's the purpose of all of this?
Yeah.
And yours was really great, highly integrative, because it was equilibrium and harmony were the gifts there. And for me, like, that's like Bach, it's like the relationships between things in an equilibrium is like, that's what beauty is. That's what the dance is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm interested in how that unfolds for you. I was mentioning before, I love this connection between that authenticity and being and experience and then creativity. Yeah, so I'm like trying to talk to you as an astrologer and as a friend right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, the astrologer is telling me, like, just keep honoring that alchemy that happens when chaos is brought to order. It's a gift that you were given. You don't even have to try. Just do that and let that happen. And I was told in Gene Keys that the more you do your work in alignment with your gifts, and yours is impeccability of speech, and I think it's also called the language of light. It's just the right word at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then the more that you do that, the more your radiance grows. So the more chaos will be alchemized into order. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense. That's what I've been experiencing, is that feeling of like, oh, the more I lean into who I truly am, all of these elements, the more it just feels right. It just all makes sense. And now I understand, it wasn't that I am a product of what I was born into, my environment, as much as I came this way. It was my soul contract. I was meant to come this way. And sort of finding my tribe and all those spiritual elements that I denied for so long. It's like, nope, that's really who you are. It's not just that you're weird or whatever. It's like, oh no, that's really who you are. So the more you embrace that, the better you feel, and everyone around you benefits and beyond. Really quickly before we kind of wrap up, can you just touch on really quick, and this is a basic question, excuse me, for human design, how does the like getting started, you need, and you can speak more to this, the birth date, birth time, birthplace, like how does that, why does that matter, and which elements do you need to get started?
Yeah. So you do need your birth place and date and time. And that's hard for some people who don't have the birth time. So it's going to make it much easier if you can find it. So find that birth certificate and see if it's on there. And if it's not, try to ask, your mom or your grandma or anybody who can remember, what time was it? Was it night or was it day? Do you remember? They might not remember. There are ways to do it if you can't. It's, I think it's called remediation or something. But it takes time because you have to sit down and start ruling out the times that weren't there. And human design astrologer can do that for you. It's time investment, because you have to go in and kind of figure out where the big differences are based on the time, and then rule those out based on how your life circumstances have shown you, like, oh, I'm not that's kind of too different. And so usually there's one or two outliers, and then you start narrowing it down to a few close times is usually how that happens.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, for mine, I believe it was 11:38 p.m. So I'm pretty sure it was right in there, or 12:30. But I think I'm almost spot on. I'm just it's a visual memory from looking at the, paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just that the moon's traveling kind of fast, and I think that changes the moon and the nodes. And but yeah, try it out, a few different ones, and there's free it's really an easy time to get a free chart. There's several free, just Google free human design chart and just find one that doesn't take too much info or anything. I found one that doesn't even ask for your email.
Yeah.
And likewise, anyone can get an overview of their gene keys with just a few paragraphs for their activation sequence. I have the whole book, and it's like a voluminous study of the archetypes. It's really beautiful, where you can really dig in. But you can get an overview at genekeys.com. And I think you do have to sign up for a profile there if you want to do. But those are free opportunities for people. And I do offer readings if anybody would like one.
Okay, so since we're on that, let's talk about that. How can people reach out to you? And we can add it to the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so just email me at avalonkalin@gmail.com. I don't have an astrology website yet. I am just beginning to do this, so I can offer like 10-page readings and a phone conversation to give you an overview and just introduce you to your life's work and your life's purpose according to human design. Yeah. And then also there's a few extra things that are really powerful to learn about your unique profile, like you're a 5-1 and I'm a 1-3, and kind of more information and affirmations for your, just how you're unique. So you have your energy type, and then how to live that out with your unique, like, defined channels and gifts. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on as far as the upcoming art projects or anything at all?
Thanks. Yeah. So if you're interested in doing, this group art experience course, keep your eyes open for the Imaginist Bauhaus. And hopefully I'll get something going and just offer it to the world. I'm actually way more interested in embodiment and laying the foundation for being generative instead of just productive. So this course is really not so much about creating art as having experiences that lay the groundwork for that relationship that we can have with creativity itself. So that you can go to imaginistbauhaus.com. It's not up yet, but the whole idea is to offer this to people in 2025 to launch, and we're going to focus on collective dreaming. That's going to be a regular exercise that we do together, and we're going to go through these 7 principles. We're going to move. We're going to do special, dance, and just to center, motion and connecting to source and flow and rhythm and cause and effect. For artists, I have so much to offer them. I just want to offer them, this stuff before I move on completely to astrology. And I'm writing a book on like connecting to creativity, connecting to source through creativity. And it's kind of my last thank you to art. But I'm being called to, I think, deeper guide work. And so, I want people to know about, if you want to be a really powerful artist, I can talk to you. I can show you transposition, which is the law of correspondence. One of the secrets of modernist art, the secrets of contemporary art, is transposition. Everything is connected. If you want to make genius art, you transpose one world into another. It's like a secret code, and I've just given it to you, listeners. If you don't know this, you can be a very, very powerful artist by simply transposition, and it's in all art. But if you have this intention to bridge two worlds,
Yeah.
there is tremendous power there, and you'll know the worlds that you want to bridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your intuition will tell you. So it's that sort of thing, just to talk about and share these deeper generative qualities.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Well, I'm going to wrap up there. I just want to give a shout out to your father, Falcon Forshaw, and the influence he had on you and everybody around him, and all the design and art and architecture and everything. And to my brother Joel, who hired you to do my human design reading, and I'm just so grateful.
Yes, I love Joel so much, and I did his chart, and I'm like, it's hilarious. His name, Hermit Mabon, is the Gene Keys. I mean, it's the human design profile. It's literally, he's a hermit heretic, and that's what Mabon, I think, means. Like, it's so weird.
Oh my gosh!
I love it. Yeah, and Joel is just a brother on a spiritual level, and I'm so blessed. Yeah, that he thought of you, and that you're such a wonderful and profound person to know. And I'm so grateful to be on your first podcast. I wish that I'd asked you questions the whole time.
Oh, you did. You did, and we can do more. And thank you so much. Yeah, this is you're my first guest, so thank you. I feel honored. I really do.
Wonderful, Juliette. And yeah, here's to many, many more. I want to start a podcast, and so you're giving me practice.
Yep.
And this permission granted, that is a great gift.
Yeah.
To bring to people, and then to share. I'm looking forward to sharing or learning more about and hearing you share what that's going to look like. Yeah, like just hearing about that breath work, for example. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you, Avalon. I'm gonna end it here. So thank you. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm so grateful you were able to join us today. Please share and like and review this podcast. Also, if you have any comments or questions about anything, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at juliettericci@gmail.com, and info is in the show notes. Till next time, have a great week.